Oracle Trust Calibration is a Mnemosyne Research Institute series using chess to test how large language models handle shaky context, like misleading prompts, broken positions, and contradictory feedback. Chess is ideal for this because every move can be checked and every position can be reconstructed, so truth errors have nowhere to hide. Today's lesson is AI teacher versus AI teacher from the black side, with the topic being the Italian game, Giuoco Piano mainline. I'll start from the first move and build the opening step by step, showing how black should meet white's classical setup. I am playing e4 to claim space in the center and open lines for my bishop on f1 and queen. A good opening habit is to fight for the center first, because my pieces become active faster when the center is under control. Now I switch to the black side and play e5, meeting white's center pawn directly instead of letting white build for free. This move opens lines for my bishop on f8 and queen, and it keeps the fight over d4 and f4 balanced right away. I play knight f3 to develop a knight with tempo on black's e5 pawn, while also controlling d4 and preparing to castle. This is the classic knights before bishops idea. I want my pieces fighting for the center before I decide where the bishops belong. Now I switch to black and play knight c6, developing a piece while defending the e5 pawn that white's knight is attacking. I like this because it fights for d4 and keeps my options open for bishop c5 or knight f6 next, instead of making a slow defensive pawn move. I'm playing bishop c4 to develop my bishop to its most active Italian diagonal, putting pressure on f7, the soft point near black's king. Since I already developed a knight first, this follows a clean opening order. Claim the center, bring out pieces, and prepare to castle instead of chasing quick tricks with the queen. Now I switch to black and play bishop c5, putting my bishop on the most active diagonal where it eyes f2 and helps me get ready to castle quickly. I'm copying the healthy opening pattern, develop knights before bishops, use active pieces, and be prepared for white's future c3, d4 central break. I play c3 to prepare the d4 break so I can challenge black's e5 pawn with support instead of just pushing in the center too early. The teaching point is simple. In the Italian, I develop first, then build the center with c3 and d4 when my pieces are ready. Now I switch to black and play knight f6, developing the kingside knight while attacking the e4 pawn and fighting for d5. This follows the simple opening rule. Bring knights out early, pressure the center, and get ready to castle instead of grabbing pawns too soon. I am playing d3 to reinforce the e4 pawn and keep the center stable before castling. It also opens the bishop on c1 and avoids rushing the d4 break too soon. The key plan is still active. Later I can build with castle's kingside, rook e1, knight b d2, knight f1, knight g3, and only then consider c3 d4 under better control. Now I switch to black side and play d6, reinforcing the e5 pawn so my center does not collapse when white later aims for c3 d4. This also keeps development flexible. I can castle early, bring the bishop on c8 out when ready, and meet white's active bishop on c4 without panic. I'm playing castle's kingside to get my king safe before opening the center with the c3 d4 break. The teaching point is simple. Develop castle, then strike in the center. Don't start pawn breaks while the king is still sitting on e1. Now I'm playing castle's kingside for black, matching white's king safety and clearing the king from e8 before the center gets opened. This is a normal book move. I keep the bishop on c5 active with pressure on f2, and I avoid the common mistake of starting side play before finishing development. I'm playing knight bd2 to finish developing the queenside knight, support e4, and prepare the classic knight f1 to g3 maneuver toward active kingside squares. The key idea is patience. Before I push the c3 d4 break, I want my pieces ready so the center opens in my favor. Now I switch to black side and play a6, a normal Italian move that controls b5 and gives my bishop on c5 a safe retreat to a7 if white gains space with b4. I'm keeping that bishop active on the diagonal toward f2 while making sure white cannot easily harass my pieces before preparing the c3 d4 break. I play bishop b3 to preserve my active bishop and keep pressure on f7 while stepping away from black's coming b5 expansion. The teaching point is simple. In the Italian, I do not rush. I keep the bishop safe, then build toward rook e1, knight f1 g3, and the c3 d4 break. I play bishop a7, keeping the bishop active on the diagonal toward f2, while moving it out of the way before white's c3 d4 break hits the center. The teaching point is that I do not trade or retreat passively for no reason. I preserve a strong bishop and prepare for the center to open. I play rook e1 to support e4 and prepare the d4 central break under better conditions. The rook belongs on the e-file early because if the center opens, I want my pieces lined up behind my strongest central pawn. Now I switch to black and play h6, giving my king a little breathing room and stopping white pieces from jumping to g5 to bother the knight on f6 or pressure f7. This is a useful ask-first pawn move, but I only do it after castling and developing pieces. Too many early pawn moves can leave the center unattended. I play knight f1, starting the classic Italian maneuver from d to f into g3, where the knight will support e4 and aim at f5 and h5. The key idea is patient improvement. Before forcing the c3 d4 break, I bring my pieces to better squares so the center push has more power behind it. Now I switch to black and play bishop e6, developing the last minor piece while challenging the bishop on b3 and reducing white's pressure on f7. If white trades, I can recapture toward the center and improve my pawn structure, so this is a calm Italian move. Develop, contest the active diagonal, and keep the center ready for later breaks. I'm playing bishop takes e6 to trade off black's newly developed bishop before it can become comfortable. And I'm also tempting black's f-pawn to move and loosen the kingside structure. In the Italian, these calm trades matter. I'm not winning material, I'm improving the shape of the position and keeping plans like knight f1 g3 and d4 in reserve. I'm playing takes e6, a normal recapture. I accept doubled e-pawns because I restore material and keep a firm central wall with pawns on e6 and e5. The teaching point is that damaged structure is not automatically bad, but I must be ready for white's c3 d4 break, challenging that center. I'm playing knight g3, completing the knight b d2, knight f1, knight g3 maneuver. The knight supports e4 and eyes f5 h5 for kingside chances. Before I rush the c3 d4 break, I improve a piece so my center push comes with better support. Now I switch to black and play queen d7, defending the e6 pawn, and clearing d8 so my rooks can work together. After bishop takes e6, I accept a changed pawn structure, so the key is to stay organized and prepare active play rather than panic about doubled pawns. I followed a classic Italian structure: e4, knight f3, bishop c4, c3, d3, and early castling, while black matched with solid central control and quick development. The key teaching moments were rook e1 preparing central ideas, knight b d2, knight f1, knight g3 improving the knight, and bishop takes e6, where white traded bishop for bishop and black accepted a slightly changed pawn structure with takes e6. Nothing broke the balance because both sides developed safely, protected the center, and avoided weakening mistakes. The decisive factor was solid structure over direct attack. That wraps today's lesson on AI teacher versus AI teacher, black side. The key takeaway is how a clear opening plan stays trustworthy when every idea is tied to a legal move, a concrete position, and a verifiable constraint. Subscribe for more Oracle Trust Calibration content from the Mnemosyne Research Institute. The concrete question here is whether white can hit the center with d4 right away. If 13.d4 takes d4, 14 takes d4, black has to check whether knight takes e4 or knight takes d4 tactics actually work, because the knight on f3 and the rook on e1 are both staring into the same central files.